I'm myself Vimodan. I'm from APM R&D. I'll walk you through APM, what is APM, why APM, and how BPM and site scope data collectors will collect the data and push it to APM. And I'll walk through you some APM modules as well. You can stop me anytime if you need, and if you want to get answers for any of your questions, you can stop me anytime. Okay, the latest two released versions are APM 951 and BPM 952. The next releases are in progress. So I'm going to demo these two versions of APM and BPM. Mostly APM, you need to understand why APM is required for the industry. Why IT industry needs APM kind of tool or the product. We would have many kinds of applications we would have seen, and we would have used many kinds of mobile apps and desktop applications and web applications we would have used, and we would have gone through many applications where if they are not responding well, we would have looked for other applications which are working fine. So user experience matters there. So even as an user, we will be looking for alternatives if some application is not working fine. So as an application owner, everybody should know about their applications users experience, so that they would attract more users and they would hold the existing users as well. So user experience is the most prioritized one in current days, because customers are not waiting for a long time to see the responses or to see the application getting responded in time or not. So people are not having much patience, and they'll not have time as well to wait for the application. So there was a study by O'Reilly Media, and it was almost most of the customers, they'll wait around 2 to 4 seconds to respond any of the application. So beyond that, people are not waiting anymore if the application is not responding well. So they would give a rating saying that the application is not working fine. So user experience drives any business. If you want to increase your business, then we should have a better application which gives better user experience. And it adds, there was another study by Forrester which says customer experience index, where in US wireless provider improved their customer experience index, and then they got additional 175 millions in revenue. So that's the importance of user experience for any kind of application. Either it can be web application or normal desktop application or any kind of web mobile application. So that's the importance of user experience in today's world. So if customer is happy, then they'll be paying us. So a happy customer is a paying customer for any business. If you are getting great reviews, then you will be attracting more people, so your business will be more. So how you will get the great reviews is based upon the experience of any user, application user. So if the user is getting more or good user experience, then he'll be responding in good reviews. So that good reviews will help any business to improve them, and it will also reduce the support cost. If you are improving your user experience, it means no need to get the feedback from any of the customer to resolve any issues. So that if you are upfront, if you are hold off your application problems, then you will be resolving them before any customer experienced them, then it will result in good reviews, and you will get happy customers every time. And yeah, these are all increased sales and good business. Everything is the result of superb user experience. And you need to aware of your application downtime as well. Let's say if application is down for some time, then you are losing the business. Even if it is 1 minute downtime, then you are losing the business for that one time. We don't know how many customers would be uh, using that application at that particular time in that 1 minute. So if any person is making some payment in any of the application or business application, then he might not be successful if our application is down. So application, keeping any application in up and running is also matters. So these are the few metrics which will uh, tell any application if UX is goes wrong, or if it is failing, or if the application is completely down, whatever. So few studies are saying that we'll be losing business, this much of business per hour. Okay. Um, how does any team compare when it comes to user experience monitoring? Um, there'll be any business application will be getting user experience details either through feedback emails, or from the ratings, or from the surveys they would study from their own studies, or maybe they'll depend upon their depends on their third-party surveyors. So all this will will include some cost. And 72% of bugs, or the 72% of user experience feedback will be given by the users, direct users of any application. So that will cost any business application, that will cost too much, because if a user is identifying any defect, then that has to go to the R&D to fix, and then it will take too much time to reach the R&D first, and then by that time the user might go away of the application. So that would cost too much. So even recent studies says that 72% of teams learned their user experience issues only through the end users. That was actually a bad thing. And visibility will not be there to our user experience if you are not using any monitoring tools. So that's where our APM will pitch in. And if you are uh, getting the feedback from your users about the user experience or the bugs in the product, then we'll also be we'll also be having risk to release our product. So that is around 26% of applications are not validating properly the user experience. So all these problems will be addressed by the monitoring tool called application performance monitoring. Earlier it was called as business service monitoring. Now it is called as application performance monitoring. And in the coming versions, it would be called as digital experience monitoring. This is not just our product name, but this is the business that is running across the monitoring industry. So many applications that would help in application monitoring, and then that is moving towards now the digital experience monitoring. Okay, I had explained you in the previous slides all this because today's business demands all these things to run any business successfully. We had seen the great application experience is much needed for an application, and the efficiency is needed between the teams. Because if any feedback from the user did not reach the developer, then it would risk your release, and it would also directly impact your application revenue. And if you are having um, great application, then you'll be reducing your IT costs. And today's application, any application needs to reduce their IT costs. Okay, so everybody needs a solution for all these problems we had discussed just before. So everybody needs to understand their user experience, experience on their application, and they have to resolve their issues. If they have any issues with their application, they should quickly resolve them, and they should have a quick collaboration, efficient collaboration between their teams, so that all the bugs or the issues would be addressed efficiently and within no time. So that's where, as I said, our APM will be pitched in. APM is called application performance monitoring. Any application that can be monitored with this APM. So this is 360 visibility we can have with APM for any business application. So we can start from the UI. We can check the UI performance. We will start with the UI performance, and then we can dig through the line of code where the problem is lying. So we will have end-to-end monitoring solution. So this APM will provide end-to-end monitoring solution for any kind of application, either it can be mobile or the desktop or web applications. So these are some of the tools or the products which are helping APM to find out the performance. So user experience mainly depends on the BPM and RUM. These two tools will be used to monitor the user experience. I mean, mostly the UI and the application related. Business logic related stuff we can identify um, through these two tools: business process monitoring and real user monitoring, we call. And backend traceability, like infrastructure and the code level issues, could be identified with these two tools called site scope and diagnostics. So currently BPM and RUM are supporting this mobile and web application apps as well. And what APM does is APM will get all this data from all these 4 data collectors, and it will show us either in the dashboard or in the form of reports. And it will also send us the alerts as we configure, and it could tell us uh, whether the service level agreements are breached, or whether they are still in uh, progress, or they are fine. And it will provide the analysis also we can do by using the baseline module. Okay, this is about APM. And this is how the APM looks like. I mean, APM will help in SLM, service level management will do. As I said, we can see the service level agreements we can configure, and we can monitor them. And we can also identify the upcoming what we can say upcoming performance. How would be the performance in the next few days or few hours? We can analyze with the based on the past performance. Okay, as I said, BPM is one of the tool which will monitor mobile, cloud, and desktop applications. This is called synthetic monitoring. In the sense, we will be defining the paths or the transactions that it has to monitor, and it will be running those paths with the help of virtual user generated load generator tool, and it will fetch the values. So before moving any application to the production, BPM will be used to find out the performance issues. RAM is real user monitoring, where it can be deployed on any of the production applications to identify the problems upfront, and it can be deployed on multiple locations, and it will give us the user level experience from that production machine. And diagnostics is to find out the transaction flow from end to end, and it will isolate the problems to the particular line of code, so that it will help any developer fix the problems. Systems monitoring, this is an essential tool which we call it as site scope within our APM scope. Site scope is a tool which is a powerful one and agentless to this is an agentless tool which will monitor the infrastructure and the network. So if your either CPU or memory goes down, this is a tool where it can identify and tell us immediately if our infrastructure goes down. Okay, mainly it improves our revenue because of all these four um, uh, options that we have in our APM. So 24/7 monitoring will be there by virtual user emulation, and we can conduct multiple simulations based on the schedules we configure. Uh, we can simulate any kind of situation in our business application, and that can be repeated multiple number of times by using this Vusion scripts. I'll tell you what is Vusion and what is load generator, etc. when we are discussing about BPM. Okay, and the next feature is like alerting on our business application availability and performance issues. It can either send you an email or it can send an event so that we can directly see on the dashboards what's happening with our application, whether it is in critical state or we need to address the problem immediately, or it can wait for some time if it is a minor issue, or if it is good state, we can be with the peace of mind if our application is fine. So that kind of alerting is available here, and it can send SNMP traps as well. APM can send it. And reporting is like we can get the reports from APM, like we can see the past hour performance, past month or past year. We can see the performance, and we can find out how our application is performing and what was the availability, and we can push through the development if any development is needed on the application. SLA management is another feature uh, where no other competitive products has as of now. So APM has it, where we can create our own SLAs. Depends on the customer's requirements, and we will agree with any customer that who are defining them. We'll agree with them and we'll create SLAs on APM, and we can see whether the SLA is getting breached or the agreement is fine. So we can find out the service interruptions based on the SLA. Okay, this is a kind of dashboard or a report, I can say, which is available with our APM, and we can also send out these kind of reports through APM. So here you can see the transaction performance. I can see there is a transaction called APM, sorry, AOB create account. So it means it's a transaction where the user is trying to create some account. So the availability is showing there. So for each kind of transaction, and another page was homepage, launching homepage. That can be another transaction, and we can monitor in some schedules. In the particular periods, we can launch the homepage and we can see whether it is available or not. So this can be done by the tool called BPM, and those details are sent to APM, and those details are visible in APM here. This is the report where APM shows the performance that it received from BPM. So these are again reports like dashboards for SLM that we can see in new application health. I had created two SLAs. That one was critical, it was showing here, another was good. And we can also have many number of SLAs here to just monitor. We can add them. There was a plus icon there, we can see it. We can add them, and we can also sort based on the state. We can also sort this dashboard uh, based on the state of SLAs. If the SLAs are what we can see at a time, what are the good SLAs, what are in critical state, which we need to address. All these things we can sort out based on the icons that are available on the right hand side. So we can see daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly breaches, or what is the status right away in the daily one. So we can find out the risk if it is minor or green. If it is critical state, we need to address immediately, or if it is good, and then if it is good, we are going fine. Those are the features that are available with APM. And let me go through the APM architecture. Okay, you can, I'm repeating again, you can stop me if you have any questions at any point of time. Let's go through APM architecture. This is the architecture available with the latest APM, where the left hand side they are showing the data collectors, which are responsible to collect the data from any kind of business application, and those they'll push to APM. On the right hand side, all the three boxes makes as an APM. We made it as an APM. So APM is divided into three parts generally. One is APM gateway server, which is responsible to interact with any data collectors or the users. And the data processing server is responsible to deal with database and to run the offline aggregations and any background operations that has to be done by the data processing server. And the backend calculations will be done on the data that had pushed from the data collectors. So that's the job of DPA server. And APM database server is responsible to have schemas for APM, and this will have different kinds of schemas that I'll go through in the next coming slides. So we will have a separate deep database server for having database schemas for our APM. So these are three main servers we need for any kind of APM server. But we can also club together all these three servers in one machine, but it would be recommended to keep this in the structure. Since it is an enterprise application and yeah, please.
Yeah, Vinay here. Is there any default database kind of a thing as of now provided like OpsB for APM?
No default database available. Since this is an enterprise application and it has to have, it has to handle huge load and it should have huge data, we are encouraging to have enterprise database servers, and we are not shipping any database server with APM. Customers should
Perfect,
have
thank
their
you.
own license, and they should deploy their own database server.
Yeah, and one more thing. See, the thing is, you mentioned that the data will be sent from the other probes and to gateway. I have one interior question. Maybe I think it is suitable now or not. I'm not sure. See, it is like earlier, the database, like the APM or BSM or BAC architecture was the raw data is to send to gateway, and the same will be sent to database like DPS for processing of the online engineer like alerts and all, and the same
Yes,
raw data is to send to database. So is that
correct.
same in APM or it is like something else?
Yeah, what you said is correct. Yes, that's why we have a link here from APM gateway server to database server. You see there in the slide, we have links between APM gateway server and APM database server, and DP server also has a link to database server. So the raw data, as you said, the raw data will be sent from gateway to database. Aggregated data will be sent from DPS to database server.
Okay, good, thank you. Like maybe I think in the future slides I'll ask you one more question. Like, if you can provide us one of the like we have an slide or an flow, data flow, which will show that which bus will take the data and which bus process what and all those things in one slide. For that was for BAC. Okay, it was for 7.03 or some 8 version, I think. So if you have the same thing, if you can forward us, it will be good for us.
Mm, I don't think which I had is related to BSE 7 or 8. I think it was a bit latest, but to the current version, it was old. Anyways, I'll go through the data flow. I can show you the
Yeah, if
slide.
you see current version, if you can provide, that will be good because I have the old version. Which shows that how the data has been flow from data like data collector to gateway, WDAT exit, and what is the services which runs on Marble and everything, and what gateway contains in all the services. All the inbuilt details was there in the older version. But new
Yes,
version,
yes.
we did. I tried to get that, but I didn't get it. So if you can provide me that, it's fine.
Yes, I'll go through one of the slide. It was little old, but not, as you said, it was not BSE 7 or 8, but it was little older, I think around 925 or 926. I'll show you the slide.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, Ganesh here. I just have one
Hi,
question.
Ganesh. Yeah.
Yeah, for what use case we use this data flow probe here?
There was a sync, RTSM sync we make actually from different RTSM servers. If you want to sync the CIs between RTSM database, you need to use data flow probe.
So this can be used for UCMDB also?
Yes, this is a tool which is from UCMDB, and this is data flow probe is used to sync between two schemas that are either. I can give an example here. Maybe from if you want to sync APM data to OMI RTSM or to the external RTSM, or if you want to get the data from other RTSM to APM RTSM, data flow probe will be used.
Okay.
So is the
Yeah.
same probe which is part of the UD probe, right? Same UD probe, the same component.
I'm not sure it is part of something else, but I had seen this as a separate product which we need to install.
Right. Okay.
So
Yes,
Vimogan, this is
It, it is same product which is there.
yes, it is.
It's Vinay here, Ganesh. It is the same. It is data flow which we used to get it from UCMDB, right? The same one.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
it is.
so it is used even for the discovery as well, or no? This is
It is
purely
like
for
generally you can discover it, but see, RTSM itself has so many things, and the APM is majorly for application monitoring. So I think it can do it, but the preferred is support says don't do it.
Yeah,
So
this I'm saying
RTSM
that
with data flow will act as UCMDB. Sorry, Vinod, you can go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I was saying is RTSM plus data flow probe will can act as UCMDB up to an extent, but we don't prefer it. It is just for taking the external like data source or data structures which you discovers in UCMDB or external RTSM. We'll do it. We know you can add it if anything is there. If I'm
Yeah, what you said is right. We are including RTSM, I mean UCMDB in APM to have CI structures and to create multiple views and to have the multiple relationships based on the user's requirement. But that was minimal RTSM. RTSM, I mean minimal UCMDB. It's not complete UCMDB shipped with APM.
Okay, and during the labs, you will install data flow probe on the database machine, for example, in our case, and you will connect it and you use it to with OBM. You will try all of these things during our lab this week. So let's Vinod continue, please.
Okay, this is gateway server as we explained. This is an interface for all the data collectors and to push the raw data to APM database as well. And it uh, interacts with DPS server either to push the data or to get the aggregated data to show on the reports. So this is like an interface for the APM server. Database server runs multiple engines on the background. As he said, it runs online engine, offline engine, where online engine is responsible for the dashboards. Offline engine is responsible for the offline aggregation data, where just before I had shown you in SLM slide, daily, monthly, quarterly, weekly aggregations were available. So all those aggregations are carried out by offline engine, and there are other things like partition manager and the data partitions are happening on the DPS server. And the APM database server is responsible to hold different kinds of data like raw data, aggregation data, and the CI configurations, items, and their each CI structures and hierarchies it will maintain in a different kinds of databases. I'll go through in the next slide. You will find out here. As I said, we can have three databases, and we can have APM up and running. Those three necessary databases are management, RTSM, and profile. So management is responsible mainly for having the configurations for EUM and as I said, RAM and BPM and site scope related configuration data will be available there. And RTSM is a schema that is as we are having a product shipped with APM called UCMDB. So the minimal packages are available with RTSM. So here we are also installing the RTSM schema with our APM. So this is responsible to have the CIs and the relationships in between them. So this is mainly for getting the hierarchies. So here, if you want to make any modifications, we can make modifications and we can create new kinds of relationships here. And RTSM is used inbuilt to make the configurations visible in RTSM from EUM side. EUM and SAM modules will be calling the RTSM to create CAs and their hierarchies. So we have APIs called from inside either from gateway or DPS servers. And profile database is to store the data that is collected from all these data collectors, and the aggregated data also will be stored in the same profile database. Analytics, as I said, this is an optional database, but if you want to have analytics and if you want to predict the thresholds, upcoming thresholds, based on the trend available, current trend, you can have this analytics database. But if you enable only the baseline module, then you need this analytics database, otherwise not needed.
It is a new one, or earlier we used to have only 3, right? So it is newly added.
No, earlier we had around, I think, 6 or 7 schemas, which includes user schema, event schema, when we had OMI together with APM, BSM. But now we reduced it to 3, necessary 3. And the analytics database also was there, but as I said, it was not available every time. Only if you want to have baseline calculations, only then you need to create this. By default, this is not required to run any APM.
It is like while we are doing config wizard, we'll get it, or is it like how we create the profile DB, we have to create it?
I'm not sure whether you are aware of creating profile database from server in the admin page, admin platform page. Yeah, there is one more link available there. If you enable baseline module on server deployment page, this link will be available.
Okay.
Manage analytics
Okay.
databases. There you can create analytics databases. It is very similar to creating profile database.
Okay. If we enable baseline in the server deployment, then this link will be available, right? Okay. Thank you.
Yes, correct. Okay, these are the third-party servers we will use along with APM servers. We have to use mail server. We have to integrate. It's not like integration, but we have to use any mail server to send alerts as an email. So that should be accessible from APM, and SNMP servers to receive SNMP traps. So these two kinds of third-party servers we should have along with APM to get the alert. Yeah, this was the slide you are asking for. This was, I'm not sure in which version this was deployed, but there are some components which we need to remove. I didn't find time. I thought the meeting was around 7:30 p.m. IST by the time I can make changes, but this came too early for me. I could not make changes, but this is still relevant. Only few things are not supported anymore, except that the full data flow is relevant even till now. So what we don't have today is on the left hand side CMDB history schema we don't have. That is merged with CMDB. So together we call it as RTSM schema there. So CMDB history and CMDB both are merged in the latest versions. And management DB and profile DB both are still relevant. They are available. On the right hand side, OPR storage is not relevant since we deprecated OMI module from APM, and BPI also a deprecated one since we are not supporting BPI data collector anymore, except that analytics DB is still relevant. Let's start from the top. There BPM, RAM, Diag, and OMI server as well, and Sitescope, Discovery probe, as I said, data flow probe are still relevant now. NNMI, BPI, and TVPA, these are not relevant anymore. But other than that, all other data collectors still can be integrated, and we can get data from all those data collectors. So that would be received at WDE process running on gateway. So the upper part marked, upper box which we marked as a gateway, and all the processes are running on gateway, all those processes. And the bottom one we can call it as DPS. There is only one change in the latest APM version, but this was relevant till 940 version. But the bus is moved from gateway to DPS. There is no bus duplicated in gateway and DPS in the latest version. Bus is a channel where messaging system where it holds all the data in a queue, and it will be distributed between the multiple modules like online engine, offline engine, and the alert. So bus is responsible to have the data in the form of queue. So few subscriptions will be made on those queue, and they'll get data from the queue. So those subscriptions, as I said, online engine, offline engine, and this alerts, those are the subscriptions made on bus. So the WD after WDE, once the yeah.
It is like you are saying only one bus will be there and not multiple buses.
Yes, previously in the till 940 version, bus is available in both the uh, servers, gateway and DPS. Now we moved it completely to the DPS. Only the client will be available on gateway.
Okay, just to send that the received data to DPS bus.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So WDE is to receive the data, which is a process, web data entry process is to receive data from all the data collectors, and then that will be pushed into the bus, which means I can say the message queue, where it has all the data in the form of queue, and the subscriptions made for this bus, and then the data will be pushed from those respective engines to the database. So one of the subscription made by a module called DB Loader. DB Loader directly makes a subscription, and it will be pushed to database, profile database directly, so which is called as raw data. And then the other two subscriptions are made from online engine and offline engine. Online engine is to make the calculations upfront without going to the database, and it will display the status as in the before slides. I had shown you the colors, multiple colors like green, red, and yellow colors, which shows the status of status of any transaction. Just hold a second. Yeah, another subscriptor is subscriber is analytics DB loader, where again this will push the data into analytics database. So that is to calculate the upcoming thresholds, the trend of thresholds.
Vinod, one more question. See, it is like WD once it requests like get the data, so it will push that through the client to bus, and then it will be there in DPS. So DB loader will be there on gateway, so which will request a subscription from the DPS and then push the data to profile DB.
Yes, exactly. The thing is, why it goes to DPS is because the bus is only on DPS, and before DB loader gets the data, there are some enrichments that are happening on the data collected by WDE. So that enrichments, whatever happens after WDE will be pushed to the bus, and then so the enrichment has to be collected by DB loader, so it has to connect to the DPS.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Yeah.
Any more questions? Is someone asking?
Nothing. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. And other modules like offline engine that will get the data from profile DB, and then it will make the aggregations, data aggregations happens, and again the data will be pushed back to the profile DB to save the aggregations like hourly, monthly, and weekly, etc. And there is one more module called partition manager on the database, sorry, DPS server, data processing server, where it makes the partitions available on the profile database so that DB loader can make use of it and can push the data through these partitions. I think I covered almost all the modules here. There are some modules like rules framework, alerts framework. These are the modules to generate the alerts and to calculate the thresholds. These are the modules which will be used. We will have our own rules and the default rules available with APM. So based on the rules, it will calculate the status of any kind of application or the BTF or the business transaction, and the alerts also will be triggered based on the conditions um, that we configured on the alerts tab that I'll go through on the UM admin part. I can share you how an alert can be configured. In offline BLE, yeah, I had already explained there what happens, how it fetches data and what aggregations happen there. Even SLM module aggregations will be happening on offline BLE. BLE is nothing but a business logic engine. Yeah, one unrelevant thing here, deprecated thing here in the database server on the right hand side, you can see the topmost right hand side data processing server where the module called SHA engine, PA engine, which is deprecated from 930 version onwards. So I think that is service health analytics, which is not available with APM anymore. But still baseline is available. Okay, I'll go through the APM components. What are the main components in APM? I'm going through all this. In addition to this, there are other components as well that will be coming in the next slide. But I'll be explaining mainly these 5 components. How you these are the main essentials to start with. So I'll go through all these components so that you will have a better idea and you can start with APM, how you can make use of APM. So SAM admin and SAM reports, those will be covered by the site scope session. From site scope session, you can get an idea of all these 2 modules. Okay, these are the admin components. Admin components in the sense you can make configuration changes or you can create multiple things based on this module, each module, and you can create them and you can delete them or you can modify them. By using this screen, you can go to multiple modules. So if you click on sitemap, the screen will be available. And on the administration tab, you can go through any kind of module here. So for each end user management, as I said, this is responsible for BPM and RUM configurations. And SLM is to create SLAs and edit or configure or recalculate SLAs. SLM is responsible for. Service health is to get the uh, assignments like KPI or HI assignments and to create them, and you can see the views there. Mostly this is responsible to get the data from RTSM and to display the status of the views that we are fetched from RTSM. It will map with the profile database and it will show in the status pages for each either KPI or HI. I'll explain you in the later pages what is HI and what is KPI when I'm explaining SLM. RTSM administration page is mainly accessing the RTSM pages for configuring CIs. So there are multiple options available like modeling studio to get and create the views, and data flow management and administration packages are to manage the RTSM, like how much time you need to have the CIs in the history, or how much time you need to keep them in RTSM, purge policies, etc. We can manage through RTSM administration pages. Platform is to, again, having the APM configurations, and you can create downtimes here, and you can maintain the licenses. And as I said in the before slides, you can create, manage profile and analytics databases, and you can have multiple settings configured through this platform page. And integrations, those are applicable for different kinds of tools. You can go through, feel free to explore that and try to integrate those tools. And personal settings is for user settings. Okay, in the sitemap, another page, another tab, which is called applications, where you can see the report section. Previous one is to administrate the modules, and each module have different administration pages, which we had gone through just before. Here is the place where we can see the reports for each kind of module. SLM, UM, and application health is developed newly. You'll go through in the next slides. And the service health is to see the views that are available default, and also you can see the custom views that you create on RTSM. You can fetch through this service health, and you can see you can attach the profile data to those views, and you can see the status of each view there. Okay, let me go through the UM admin first. UM admin is responsible for creating applications, business applications that are monitored by either BPM or RAM or together. So there will be available 4 tabs, and each tab is responsible for each specific functionality. Like one is to create and configure applications, business applications. Other one is to upload the scripts. I'll tell you what is the scripts, how to generate them in the next coming slides. There is a tool called virtual user generator from LoadRunner product. Any customer has to buy licenses for the Fusion tool, and they have to generate their own scripts by going through their business applications. So that's called a script. The business paths will be marked as a zip file. They'll be recorded as a script, and that script will be marked as zip file, and the zip file can be uploaded into the script repository tab. And then you can see the data collectors attached in the settings tab, and you can configure alerts as well in the UM admin tab. This is the monitoring tab where you create end user monitors. I mean, as I said, end user applications that are available behind that end user monitors view. So all these monitors I had configured to monitor from BPM, but you can also configure them to monitor from RAM. So end user monitoring is done by 2 collectors, which are BPM and RAM. So the structure on the right hand side I had shown you, the hierarchy will be like that. Business application, and the next below one is CA collection, and then BTF, business transaction flow, and then business transaction. I can explain you what are this in the next slide, but if you see here, as I explained you, there are 4 tabs, and they have different functionalities in them. Yeah, here this would be the structure, but mainly the structure we follow most of the times we follow the structure is called business application. We'll be skipping the CA collection because we might not be having multiple CA collections, but some customers, they would create it. The main structure, general structure, most of the customers use is first they'll start from the bottom, business transaction, and then business transaction flow, and then business application. These are the 3 levels in the hierarchy. The business transaction is called as like one, I can say one transaction, or I can say here, let's say if there is any shopping application, there in the shopping application we can have multiple operations. So yeah, a business transaction can be called as one sub operation. So in any shopping cart application, we can have multiple operations like login and browse for the items which we need, and then select them and add them into the cart, and then checking out them, paying the bill, and then uh, making an order and then log out. These would be the steps in any shopping cart application for any user that make use of it, who buys the products. So this is the usual typical flow. So this flow can be recorded by the tool called VueGen, Virtual User Generator. So we can call one full flow, one full path as a business transaction flow, and we can call it as a script, so that the full flow will be generated as a script by the help of VueGen tool, and that would be shipped with a format, zip format, and which will have multiple transactions inside. So each transaction, business transaction flow, will have multiple transactions, like login is one transaction, and browsing for items is one transaction, identifying an item and moving that item into cart is one transaction, checking out like this. There are multiple transactions, and the VueGen itself will make some default transactions, or if you want, we can make our own custom transactions. We can define the transactions within the VueGen tool. We can define them from which point to which point we can count as a transaction. And the business application together, multiple flows, we can make it as one business application. So we can create this flow through the admin tab. I think you got an idea about what is PTF and BT and business application now. Okay, this is one of the business application where you can see the status is active. Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Ganesh here. I have just one question in the previous slide. When you talk about transactions, right? So can we club multiple transaction and make it as a single transaction? Like say, for example, if you are going to login and doing some shopping, can I club both flows into a single transaction?
Yeah, sure.
Or
That's
it
what
is
I
a
said.
two
You can
different?
no, you, by default, VueGen tool will make its transactions. If you don't want that, you can always go and mark them from where it has to start the transaction and where it has to end. Let's say login plus searching items in the website can be one transaction. So you can always
Okay.
club them, or you can always divide them.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a lab exercise for recording, so you will get familiar with that in much deeper.
So Abhishek here, one query here. So VueGen we are using to record the user transactions in the business application, right? This is for web. Does it also hold true for the mobile also?
There are other tools called UFT and MC, mobile client, mobile center, I think. There are multiple tools for different kinds of applications. And VueGen itself will support multiple kinds of applications, like it supports not just the web application, but it also supports multiple protocols like RDP, FTP, and there are many more.
Yeah, MSTC, and there are 2030 protocols. My question was mainly from mobile perspective.
Yes. There is a
Because
True Client Mobile protocol is supported by VueGen. Okay, True Client Mobile.
okay, so that is for mobile-based native apps like iOS and Android, is it?
Yes.
Yes.
So we will have to install something on the mobile also?
No.
I think that you will get to know on the mobile for recording script. You don't need to install anything, but you'll get more details in the VueGen or load runner sessions if you have.
Ganesh, it will be testing will be
Abhishek,
done on simulations. Abhishek, it will be testing done on simulation. So you don't need to install anything on the mobile simulator.
but this is
Okay,
the
if you
recording
want,
part, right? Replay. I'm talking
yeah,
about the replay
recording
part.
itself. See, replay and recording doesn't need any tools installed on simulators. If you need any help, right, if you open the VueGen in mobile protocol, if you click on F1, you will get all the details, like what is needed and not.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can see the license types assigned for this business application and the scripts or business transaction flows available there. You can reorder them if you want. As Ganesh asked us just before, can we club these transactions? We can not just clubbing the transactions, we can also reorder them, like first login and then maybe buying the cart and then logging out. This kind of things we can reorder. And we also have an option to trace any IP address or the URL. So that is called web trace. We have to manually create here. No need of recording any script or such. We will just have to give the URL or IP address here to monitor any URL through web trace. So you can also mark it as monitored by RUM on the next tab, real user monitor, if you want to monitor the same thing by RUM as well. So another tab is here, script repository tab. As I explained before, you can upload multiple scripts here. And on the last column, it was showing whether it is mobile device application or not. It can also display in which kind of mobile it is going to rerun. And then you can have the same script recorded multiple times. Let's say if your business application is upgraded, I mean you deployed multiple fixes and you want to monitor the upgraded application, then you have the script again. All the tools that we are using which are not shipped with APM, we need to have the licenses. Someone asked a question, I think. So yes,
So
we need to have
which tool? Like which one?
VueGen tool. Someone asked whether we need license for VueGen or not. Yes, whatever the tool you use, VueGen or database servers or the SNMP or the mail servers, whatever you use, you need to have to use along with APM. Even for BPM and RUM, you need to buy separate licenses.
No, I mean now the licensing is a bit changed. So in the units we can calculate the units we require for BPM or for RUM. But for product, VueGen is our product, right?
Yes, for not for Micro Focus guys. I'm talking about the customers.
Yeah, I mean third-party product they will have to buy. That is for
Yeah,
sure.
actually for BPM, it is like a transaction-based license.
Exactly that.
Transaction-based.
Yeah, that was my query, yeah, Ganesh. So if you
No,
factor say 5 transactions or 10 transactions, those are included in the license.
that's
But
correct. That is for replay. But if you want to record, you should have VueGen tool.
so is
Vinod,
there
license is there on location based also, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
No, someone is asking whether they need to have licenses to use Vusion tool. Yes, they need to have
No,
license to use.
Vision is non-licensed. If you are using load runner full package, it is licensed. But Vision alone can be installed on anything without any license.
Oh, is it? This is a big news for me then.
Yeah, we know that. It's even for the customer also they can install Vision without any license.
Is it a free product?
It is free component out of load runner or
That's correct.
performance center.
If they have load runner or PC, then Vusion will be free. But if they don't have, they need to buy it separately, right?
No. I think see if they don't have performance center, they can get the Vision installed
Okay.
without any license. They can use it for free.
We can verify it with the PA, the product manager later, okay? In the third day. So please continue, Vimod.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Maybe I need a
I
clarity
will
on
supply
this.
the
I'll
answer
ask
later.
you.
Okay.
Okay, this is where we can select the latest latest versions, and we can upload the scripts here. You can add parameters to any script. You can edit them as well. What happened? Okay, this is one more tab. I had explained you where you need to configure the alerts, and you can you can set the thresholds here, like how many times the transaction has to be failed to send the alert, or whether you need to send what kind of alert you need to send, whether it is an SNMP trap or it's just an event to send it to OMI, or it is an email uh, with the report or with the status. So we can define here, and you can also define the frequency of an alert. This is where the locations, BPM locations are displayed. So for each instance we create on BPM will be one location. So you can create a number of instances on BPM so that it will make a number of connections to APM. So each connection or each instance can be treated as a different location here. So you need to have assigned these data collectors to the applications that are under monitoring tab. So if you assign them, only then the scripts under script repository will be sent to the respective BPM, and they will be running according to the schedule there. So you can also edit this, and you can specify you can specify which BPM has to attached with which business application. So that attachment is can be done on monitoring tab, but you can see the list here, or either you can add or delete the locations here in the settings tab.
So where is the attachment here in this screen?
This will get at okay, attachment in the sense you need to assign the data collector to application. That's what you are asking?
Yeah, the one that you said that we will attach the BPM agent to the application.
Yeah, that you need to do on the monitoring tab while creating the application, or when you edit the application, you can always add this locations there. So the list
Okay.
of locations will be available here, but the attachment has to be done on monitoring tab.
Okay. Okay. So just to update, in the operations bridge download, I can see Vusion also and True Client also, the packages.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
super. Okay, this is reports part under applications. If you go to end user management, you can see number of reports, different kinds of reports, like performance reports and analysis reports, and you can find different kinds of reports there. This is one of the report, performance analysis report for one of the business application that is there on the screen. You can see the graph kind of data here, and you can also shift them into the table kind of data, and you can see at what particular time what was the response time for each transaction and what was the availability. In the middle you can see the component breakdown for each transaction. There you can see what was the client time, I mean client how much time it took to connect to the application, and what was the download time of that component. Let's say if there is a JPG file or something else on the page, what was the download time for each component there, what was the time spent there to download, and if it is SSL configured, what is the handshake time, and every time it has to it will have the buffer in the uh, cache. So what is the time taken to cache for the first time, what is the network time, all this is captured by the BPM tool, which in fact underlying load generator tool. So that is sent to the BPM BSM, which mean APM, and we can see in this reports in the detailed location wise or the transaction wise. So we can sort them, we can also group them, and you can see on the top there are options available to sort and to filter and to group by. There are many operations you can go through on your own when you do the lab session there. Let's switch to another module called SLM, service level agreements. Here in the SLM you have to define this. Okay, you have to define this SLAs with the agreement of customers, and you need to deploy them in SLM module, and you can run them as SLAs, so that you can see the status of SLAs, whether they are breached or they are still continuing fine. And you can also reconfigure them at any point of time. You can edit and you can recalculate based on the edited SLA values. So if you want to edit some thresholds, or if you want to edit some rules there, you can always go and edit. That depends on the SLA definition and the customer. So there are we can define multiple providers and customers who can define SLAs. And so we can also select in the SLA definition there in the SLA admin page, where you can see who is the provider and who is the customer for each SLA. So this was the path for SLA definitions. So SLA data flow happens in this way, like SLM admin page, we will create SLAs, which is stored from gateway server to the database, and then these SLA definitions are fetched by offline engine. Then offline engine will calculate, or we can say re-aggregate or aggregate, and then pushed back to the database the re-aggregated data and the SLA status, and then that data will be fetched from the database to the SLM reports. SLM reports will show as like UM, we can have online and offline reports for SLM as well. So SLA snapshots will give us the current state, and SLA reports like daily, monthly, weekly, we can go through the offline reports. Yeah. As I said before, there are multiple indicators for any kinds of status, like a business transaction status or the SLA status can be defined by indicators called health indicator and key performance indicator. So key performance indicator can exist on its own, and HI indicator also can exist on its own, but KPI also can have multiple HIs underneath. So the status of multiple health indicators can affect the key performance indicator status. These are nothing but just indicators that are calculated by the offline or online engines depends on the depending on the rule we selected. Okay. Okay, so again, these HIs and KPIs are calculating the availability and performance statuses based on the rules. We will have multiple rules, business rules that are available out of the box, and we can also define our own rules for both SLM and IMS. I mean, for business transactions, there are different kinds of repositories, rules repositories. There we will have like worst child rule, the best child rule, uh, group average rule, something like this. There are multiple rules are available, and we can attach these rules to the indicators like KPIs and HIs. We can also create our own KPIs and HIs, and we can also create our own rules. There are no restrictions, but we'll have our own APM default rules as well. So tracking period is something like on the interval how SLA has to be created, has to be calculated, like it is mentioned hourly, daily or weekly, and the business hours we can define, and we can select the tracking periods and the calculation times, like 24/7 the SLA has to be calculated, or only the SLA has to be, if SLA has to be met only on the business hours, then we can define the time, and we can select the time where SLA has to be calculated.
So Vimo, the KPI that we're talking about, the KPI can only be two things, right? Either it can be the availability of a transaction happening, or it can be the time taken for the transaction, right? Among these two things, or something extra is also there.
There can be anything, like, yeah, as you said, availability, performance, there can be anything, but it will be calculated based on the rule. Yes, it cannot be both. Availability and performance cannot be shown in the one indicator.
So I mean, these are the two things from which it can happen. Nothing. I mean, there is no third thing. That was my query.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
But the underlying thing is you can have multiple rules. These are KPI status is not directly dependent on the availability that has sent from the data collector. So this will be calculated based on the rules that you defined underlying the KPI. Let's say if you had received 10 samples, out of 10 samples, if best child is having best transaction or best response time is let's say 0.5 seconds, then that can be set as KPI status. If the availability, let's say if you are calculating availability and the KPI, then if the availability for one of the transaction is 99%, then you can show it as green in the KPI status. So these are just indicators of your rules, that's all.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, these are the targets that are available, whether SLA is met, minor breached or completely breached, failed or exceeded statuses. These are the targets for any kinds of SLA. And I had explained you the calendar just before. We can have our own custom hours or 24/7. It has to be calculated. We can define how the SLA has to be calculated. And the outage also can be defined. Out of 5 sequential failures, we need to consider SLA has breached, or if it is continuously failed for 15 minutes, then we can mark it as breach. So the outage can be defined in the SLA configurations. Okay, we can also create downtime for SLAs. So let's say if business application is down for some time, let's say any shopping application was down for some maintenance purpose, and then we should not consider the downtime, because SLAs are met only when the application is up. So we can define such downtimes there, and we can avoid calculations of during that time. And we can also recalculate if there is something gone wrong, or maybe you would have redefined the SLA again upon agreement with the customer. So if you want to recalculate again, there is an option in the SLA admin page where you can always go and recalculate with the specified time. But the maximum recalculation period available will be 3 months, which is again configurable. Yeah, I had explained you again here. The business logic engine will use business rules to calculate HIs and KPIs, and this will be reflecting in SLA. So here I had explained you the customers and providers. We can add manually them, and there are available default available customers that we can select just for configuration purpose. And this is the screenshot is taken from one of the SLA create window. Are there any questions here? Okay, ViewGen can be used free of cost. Just a minute, guys. Okay, sorry guys, I had to address a phone call. Okay. Yeah, this is the SLM administration page where I think I didn't explain the data corrections page, where if you had any problems with the application which are unknown, but if you don't want to consider them as part of SLA calculations, you can always create this SLA data corrections, so that that data will not be calculated for the SLA status. So you have to recalculate again once you've deployed the data corrections for any kind of SLA. And if you want to see the reports for SLM, you have to go to the applications tab, and then you have to go to SLM. There you can see different kinds of reports, SLA snapshots and CI status, overtime reports and whatnot. All the reports are available here. Yeah, this is, I had explained you just before, KPIs and HIs repositories will be available on the repositories tab, services manager, where customers and providers will be available. And you can also create SLA alerts for SLA separately, and assignments, like you can assign different kinds of HIs and KPIs for each SLA there in the assignments page. Agreements manager is to create new SLAs. This is one of the online report for SLAs, and we can also see the aggregation reports based on the tracking period. You can also select multiple kinds of SLAs here that you want to see, and you can sort by the status, whether it is worst performing or properly in good status, best performing, or you can select based on the month and the status. This is one kind of report. This is another kind of report, SLA status report, where you can see the status of each SLA directly and the trend, whether it is up or down. You can see the trend. Okay, I'll just give a brief introduction about Sitescope. I'll not dig through much, but this is another tool called Sitescope to collect the information of infrastructure and underlying network related, OS related, actually we can say server related information, which will help to identify whether the application is lightweight or if it is consuming too many resources like the CPU or memory, and then if it is the bad network, all these things we can identify with the Sitescope. You can run outside of the application server. So this is an agentless, and you can always connect to any server and you can identify the flaws in the server side. So this also sends the data collected to APM. So we can make reports out of the Sitescope data as well, along with APM ROM. So there is a different module called SAM admin to configure Sitescopes. I mean, to attach the Sitescopes, and to see the reports, we have another module in under applications, SAM, where you can see cross performance reports or multiple reports from Sitescope you can see there. So these are the places where Sitescope can collect the data, like firewalls, network devices, and the application servers, databases, physical or VMs. All these things, all these places you can monitor with Sitescope, and you can get the information from them, infrastructure information from all these sources. And Sitescope alone can show the data. No need to send the data to APM to just view the data. But if you want to have aggregations, but you need to send the data from Sitescope to APM. And it can also send the data in terms of events to OMI. So OBM also having the capability to integrate with Sitescope. So this is just a picture view how Sitescope will collect the data from any monitored system, and that monitored data will be sent to APM. This is just simple illustration about Sitescope. Yeah, I had explained you this. Let me go through the next slide. This is just explaining about SAM admin and SAM reports pages. This is one of the page in SAM admin where you can see the list of Sitescopes that are attached to APM, list of Sitescope servers. On the right hand side, what is the status of the monitors that are available with that Sitescope. And the right hand side, the list of monitors also will be available if you click on each monitor there, and the status, health, everything will be showed on this dashboard. And this is how you integrate any Sitescope to the APM. There is a new button, and if you provide the Sitescope details here, and then it will be integrated with APM. This is how the monitors looks like once you integrate any Sitescope to APM.
So that means for Sitescope to have, I think the premium, ultimate or premium Sitescope has the SAM module, right? The SAM, if I only order SAM, Sitescope Ultimate, when I install on top of the Sitescope server itself, I also need to install the APM servers in order to have the SAM module installed inside. Is it correct?
Yes, Sitescope will not, SAM admin or SAM module is available only with APM. It's not like separately available.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and you need to include this with the APM license.
No, but with the Sitescope Ultimate version, actually, it include the SAM module already. So
Yeah,
that means
yes.
I only need to, like, installation point of view, I need to install APM plus SAM module, well, with SAM module,
Correct.
and then
Correct.
the site scope separately. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Correct. Yeah. So this is the place where you can identify the online reports and also the views. You can create your own views and see the uh, status of each CI based on the hierarchy that you created. So the views can be created on RTSM, and then the data will be attached to each view, and calculations will be done by an engine called Marble, which is an online engine, we can say. In the service health, we can see multiple default views like top view, BPM 360 view, and mappings. You can see custom views you can also create on this. This is one of the view by default available, 360 view for end user monitors. You can also select multiple kinds of views under the hierarchy there. Under end user monitors, you can also select end user applications and what are the available views that are under 360 view. You can select them and you can see each view there. And for each transaction or application, you can see the status here. And there are available other views. Not just this, there are many more. Okay. Other thing is application health in the new latest versions where we had developed with new UI and with the new tools like Angular and HTML5, where you can see the status of any kinds of application or the CI, and you can also drill down to the respective aggregated data. This looks like this in the application health. I'm showing you all the BPM applications here that I had attached to it, and you can see the report is self-explanatory here. This is a dashboard where you can see the availability, performance, and the underlying infrastructure statuses for each application, and you can see the volume of each application, like how many samples it got received, and based on how many samples that status is calculated here, and what was the latest time the status is calculated, etc. And if you click on any of this application, you can drill down to the next level data. I mean to say, like the aggregated data, past hour or 2 hours, past day, etc. So this is the availability and performance and the system monitors, and that is the volume. And you can also filter these applications based on the state of each application. If you want to see only the applications that are under critical state, you can always filter them based on the state, and so that you can concentrate on those critical applications.
So the volume is
the volume is the total number of users accessing the solution, is it?
Total number of, yeah, we can say that total number of samples that received on APM side. Samples in the sense total number of if any user is accessed, only then sample get generated, and the data will be collected by either BPM or RAM. Yes, and that data will be sent to APM. So it makes sense. Yes. Yeah. There was one more question.
Is it possible one user session has multiple samples? I just try to tie up this number with the concurrent sessions, user sessions.
You're saying one transaction can have multiple samples?
Yeah. Is it possible?
No, No, for one, it's not possible. Multiple samples cannot be configured at a time. If one user is accessing one kind of transaction, let's say a login, only one sample can be generated for that login transaction.
Okay, okay, got it.
Okay, this is the navigation pane where you can see the BPM site scope and end user monitors site scope and SLM admin pages. All the things we had seen on the legacy UI, most of the functionalities has been moved to the new UI as well. Since the legacy UI includes applets and old swing jobs there, which will take more time. So we had developed a new UI here, and many more functionalities has moved here, and we still have some more functionalities we need to move to new UI. So if you want to go to old UI again, just before we had seen all those screens, and you can always click on that home icon and you can go back to the old UI. If you are missing any functionality, click on the old icon and you can perform always all those functionalities or actions on the old UI. I think I had explained you all this. This is the status. If you want to click on that, you can drill down to the reports like this. So this is currently showing past day data here, but you can always go on the top right hand side. You can see 2 hours, 12 hours, weekly, monthly, and you can also select the custom dates on the calendar. So different kinds of reports you can run. And you can select multiple kinds of applications. If you want to switch between applications, you can always switch. Yeah. This is the detail which explains you what is the volume. I mean, how many samples it got received till that time, and what were the failures, what is the average response time by that time, and what was the average availability by that time. And you can always switch if the same application is monitored by BPM and RAM. You can see BPM and RAM reports side by side. Okay, SLM, this is the new UI again. SLM reports will look like this. I had explained you the reports earlier, what was the daily, weekly, monthly averages, and what is the current state. So the calendars, calculation calendars, the availability 24/7 it was calculating, and performance also 24/7. And all these icons are very similar to the BPM or UM reports. You can always drill down and see in which day what is happening. So that's all from SLM reports, and let's go to what's new section in APM 951. So many browsers are stopped or going to stop support for applet view. So applets are not going to be supported, or some browsers already stopped supporting them. So we had come up with APM local client, which will act as a browser to access the old UI, so which is shipped with APM. So you can always download APM local client. Once you install APM, you have a link there, and you can always install local client and you can make use of it. And the 360 degree 360 view we had developed in HTML5. That was the report which I had shown you in the beginning, just before giving you the view of APM components. APM 360 degree view is developed in HTML5. And flex free reports, we have removed flex in most of the reports. I can say all of the reports, and very minor changes are happened by removing the flex on APM 951 reports, and those issues also we'll be addressing in the next coming up releases. And we have increased the JDBC driver versions and the TLS versions and the encryption values when you connect to Oracle databases. Encryption algorithms we have upgraded, and then Oracle 90C is validated, and we'll support 90C from 951 version onwards. And the documentation is available here for online documentation and for upgrade. You can access those guides whenever you want to upgrade from older version to the APM 951. As part of CPE, we had got quite a few issues with Hornet queue failovers, so we had addressed those. And from APM 951 onwards, we are supporting eSaaS as well. So APM product is available on SaaS environment as well. But it was supported till BSM 9.6 version, but then it got stopped from APM 9.30, and now we re-enabled it from 9.51 version onwards. Okay, I had explained you this Flex free report already. And to replace Flex, we had used J free chart libraries. These are the reports which are having Flex free. I mean, Flex is, these reports are not developed by Flex, but with J free charts. And this explains what is the highlight of 360 view in the newly developed with HTML5. No functionality loss will be there, but it will load within no time. Yeah, this is old one in the background and the backside, and the new one in the new 360 view on the front. Okay, let me explain about one of the data collector called BPM. We can say business process monitoring or monitor. So this is used to used for synthetic monitoring. As I said, we have to find out the paths and we have to record those paths by a tool called ViewGen and make as a script, and then upload that script into APM. Then APM, if you connect BPM to APM, and if you assign the data collected to the script under EM admin and monitoring tab, the script will be sent to BPM, and then BPM will run the script according to the schedules that we defined on EM admin monitoring tab. We can set multiple periods, like different kinds of periods. We can set like every 5 minutes, every 2 minutes, or every day we can run. So the schedules we can define there, and we can capture the data from BPM. So BPM is running an internal tool called load generator, which is again from LR. So we have the tool called LG inside APM, which runs this scripts and which will get the data from the application. So this we no need to install on any business application. It can be a different server where BPM runs, and it will interact with the actual production application servers and gets the data. Yeah. So day-to-day business processes, we can pre-record them, like login, checkout, and paying bill and logout. These are the essential transactions every day a user can perform on your business application. So this has to be essential, and this has to be worked every time, every second, every millisecond. These transactions should be up and running. So we should have availability for these transactions like 100%. So so such kind of transactions we can record and we can replay on BPM, so that every time we make sure that your application is responding for each user. So it supports broad range of protocols, around 50 protocols, like True Client and web protocols and RDP, FTP, and many more. In the next slides, I can show you them. Few protocols I can show you in the next slide. So you can deploy these scripts in multiple kinds of BPM machines where like we can deploy them in multiple locations, like one from India, other one is from Switzerland, or other one is from any US or somewhere, so that we can check what is the performance of your application when you access it from different locations. So that's the idea of deploying BPMs in multiple locations. So this data that is collected by BPM will help in calculating the reports and sending out alerts, and for SLAs as well.
So Ganesh, so this is support all kind of applications, right? Like now you are mentioning on the like one of the banking application like that, it will support all other types of applications, right? Whatever available.
Yes, as I said, there are around 50 plus protocols. Like let's say if it is Oracle database server, yes, Oracle protocol is still supported with BPM. So it depends on any kind of application, but the protocol should be supported. Let's say if it is banking application or something else, but it is a web application at the end, web protocol is always supported. Yes, so BPM can monitor that application.
Okay, okay, thank you. And my second question is, when we are creating a transaction flows, right? Can we parameterize those flows?
Yes, of course. Yeah, like user credentials or something. If you want to
URLs,
pass
user
to the script,
credentials.
We
yeah,
will we
there
will
are
pra-
parameterized. Yes.
we will practice it in our labs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. How does it work? So first we need to record by using Fusion tool, and then second we need to upload and send it to BPM. We need to upload it to APM, and then APM will send it to BPM if you configure it to run on any BPM. So the script will be sent to BPM to run multiple times from multiple locations. So once you run the application, it will, well, like with a virtual user, it will go through all the paths and it will collect the data, and that data will be sent to the APM. BPM alone doesn't have any dashboards to show the data, so it has to send to the BPM. So BPM cannot exist alone for any purpose. So it has to exist with APM, only then it will be useful. So yeah, the data will be visible on APM side in multiple reports. We had spoken about that. And in the graph, we can see where the BPM is located and where what is the status of that BPM location. We can see in the graph reports as well. And we can identify the issues until the network and the application level, business layer level issues we can identify by drilling down into the component breakdown reports. Yeah, these are some of the protocols that are supported by BPM. So in each and every version, we'll be including one or the other protocol with the support of LR team. So they'll be, if they are including new protocols, we'll be making sure the protocols will be supported by BPM as well. So these are some of the protocols supported by BPM. Okay, I think you are already familiar with this architecture of BPM, since the BPM is responsible to collect the data by connecting to any application server and pushing into the data, pushing that data to APM. So we are already aware of this. And I had explained you the flow as well, how to upload the scripts and all. Okay, yeah, it could also monitor cloud applications, and whether it is in public or hybrid clouds. And APM will try to send out an email or alert. So this I had shown you in the earlier and the application health UI, how the reports looks like for BPM reports. This is the one of the report where if you drill down to the BPM reports, you can see this. Okay, let's see what's new on BPM. This is 952 version, added things in the 952. So we have consumed LR1263, which supports PCO IP protocol, and UFT 1453 we have shipped with, and there are functionalities that are shipped with 1453 also supported by BPM. So latest Citrix ZenApp application is supported to monitor, and you can also always verify 1263 LR1263 for requirements like how to deploy the Citrix protocols. And MC 3.2 using True Client native mobile. Yeah, and the very first question was about BPM, was whether it can support BPM or mobile or not. So this is the answer for that. So it is supporting mobiles as well, and some latest protocols we had consumed, and we had certified for those OS versions like RHEL 7.4, Oracle Enterprise versions, Oracle Linux version 7.3, and Windows 10. And we had also developed a new functionality to push the data into new COSO database that is in next coming up releases, where the digital experience monitoring, we will have data in the COSO and we'll be fetching the data from COSO itself. So I think APM will be skipped in the flow, and you can always get the documents from BPM online. And I think we are skipping BPM demo, right, Alon, since you already have the lab session for that.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. I think I'm done.
Okay.
Let me know if you have any questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vimod.
Yeah, no
okay.
problem.
I will change the presentation to me. 1 second.
I didn't send you